You didn't pause here by accident. There may be something within you that gently slowed you down, even before you understood why. Something about this moment feels different, as if time itself softened just enough for you to notice. You may not have the words for it yet, but there is a quiet awareness rising inside you. So just stay here for a moment longer, without rushing, and let yourself feel what is already unfolding. My child, I have been with you through moments you barely remember and through thoughts you never spoke aloud. There were times when you felt uncertain, when your steps seemed hesitant, and when your heart quietly questioned what was ahead. Yet even in those moments, something within you remained open. Even if only slightly, even if only for a breath. You may not have realized it, but that openness has always mattered more than certainty. It has been the space where something new could begin. You may have sensed recently that something is shifting, not in a loud or overwhelming way, but in a subtle and steady rhythm. Perhaps it felt like a quiet pause in your usual thoughts, or a gentle awareness that things are not exactly as they were before. This is not something you need to force or fully understand right now. It is enough to notice that you are here, that you are present, and that something within you is willing to listen. That willingness is already a form of movement, my beloved. There is a place within you that has remained untouched by confusion, even when everything around you seemed uncertain. It is quiet, often overlooked, but it has always been there, waiting patiently for you to return to it. You may have felt distant from that place at times, especially when doubt or hesitation appeared. Yet even then, it never left you. It simply waited, without judgment, without urgency, for your awareness to come back. There are moments in life that do not announce themselves with noise or urgency, but instead arrive with a kind of stillness that feels almost unfamiliar. This may be one of those moments. You might feel a slight pull to stay present, to not move on too quickly, to not distract yourself as you may have done before. And if you notice that pull, even gently, it is worth honoring. It is often in these quiet spaces that something meaningful begins to unfold. My chosen, you have walked through seasons where clarity felt distant and where each decision carried a weight you could not always explain. You may have wondered if you were moving in the right direction, or if you were missing something important along the way. These thoughts are not signs of failure, but reflections of your awareness growing. When you begin to question more deeply, it often means you are becoming ready to see more clearly. There is no need to rush into understanding everything at once. In fact, much of what matters most cannot be grasped all at once. It unfolds gradually, often through small realizations that build upon each other. You may notice a shift in how you respond to certain thoughts or situations. You may find yourself pausing where you once reacted quickly. These are not small changes, even if they seem subtle. They are signs that something within you is beginning to align in a new way. My heir, within the quiet of this moment, there is a kind of invitation, not one that demands anything from you, but one that gently offers a new perspective. You are not being asked to prove anything or to become something different overnight. Instead, you are being invited to notice what is already changing within you. Sometimes the most important transformations begin not with action, but with awareness. You may have felt a sense of hesitation before, as if something held you back from fully stepping into what you sensed was possible. That hesitation was not a weakness. It was part of your process, part of how you learned to discern what truly mattered to you. Now, as you sit with this moment, you may notice that the hesitation is not as strong as it once was. It may still be there, but it no longer defines your direction. There is a quiet strength growing within you, one that does not need to announce itself or seek validation. It reveals itself in the way you begin to trust your own awareness, even when it feels unfamiliar. You may not yet feel completely confident, and that is perfectly natural. Confidence often grows from repeated moments of choosing to stay present, even when it would be easier to turn away. My child, there is something important about this moment, not because it is dramatic or urgent, but because you are here, aware and open, even if only slightly. That openness is enough. You do not need to force clarity or rush into decisions. Simply allowing yourself to be present with what you are feeling can begin to shift things in ways you may not yet see. You may have wondered why certain things in your life seem delayed or why clarity did not come when you expected it. It is possible that those delays were not obstacles, but part of a larger unfolding that required time. Sometimes, what feels like waiting is actually preparation, even if it does not look like it on the surface. You were not being held back. You were being given space to grow into what you are now ready to receive. As you continue to sit with this moment, you may begin to notice small changes in how you feel. Perhaps there is a sense of calm that was not there before, or a quiet reassurance that you are exactly where you need to be right now. These feelings may come and go, and that is natural. What matters is that you are beginning to recognize them when they appear. My beloved, there is no need to compare your journey to anyone else's. Your path has its own rhythm, its own timing, and its own meaning. You may not always understand it fully, but that does not make it any less real or valuable. The more you allow yourself to trust this process, even in small ways, the more you may begin to see how each moment connects to the next. You are not being asked to have all the answers. You are simply being invited to stay present, to remain open, and to trust that what is unfolding within you has its own purpose. Even now, as you read these words, something within you is responding, even if it is subtle. That response is important. It is a sign that you are listening not just with your mind, but with something deeper. If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect quietly on what you are feeling right now. You may not need to define it or explain it. Simply noticing it is enough. And if you feel gently guided, you may choose to continue this journey, allowing each moment to reveal itself in its own time. My child, now that you have allowed yourself to pause, there is something deeper beginning to reveal itself, not through force, but through quiet clarity. You may notice that the confusion you once felt is no longer as heavy as it used to be. It may still linger at the edges of your thoughts, but it no longer holds the same power over you. This is not because everything has suddenly become clear, but because something within you has begun to settle. And when your inner world becomes still, even slightly, clarity often finds its way in naturally. There are moments when you may question whether what you are feeling is real or simply a passing emotion. You may wonder if this sense of calm or awareness will last, or if it will fade like other moments before it. These thoughts are natural, and they do not diminish what is happening within you. In fact, questioning can often be part of the process of understanding. What matters is not whether every feeling remains constant, but whether you are willing to notice them as they arise. My beloved, there has always been a quiet guidance within you, even during times when you felt lost or uncertain. It does not speak loudly, and it does not demand your attention. Instead, it waits patiently, offering gentle direction when you are ready to listen. You may have ignored it before, not intentionally, but because life felt too busy or too overwhelming. Yet even then, it remained, unchanged and steady, waiting for your awareness to return. As you sit with this moment, you may begin to recognize subtle signals that you once overlooked, a thought that feels slightly clearer than others, a sense of ease when you consider a certain direction, or a quiet resistance when something does not feel aligned. These are not random occurrences. They are part of how your awareness communicates with you. The more you notice them, the more familiar they may become. My chosen, clarity does not always arrive as a complete picture. Often, it appears in small fragments, each one revealing just enough for the next step. You may feel a gentle pull towards something, even if you do not fully understand why. You may sense that certain paths no longer feel right, even if they once did. This is not confusion. It is refinement. It is your awareness becoming more attuned to what truly resonates with you. There is no need to rush ahead or to force yourself into decisions before you feel ready. True direction often unfolds when you allow yourself to move at a natural pace. You may have experienced moments in the past where you felt pressured to act quickly, only to later question those choices. Now, you are learning a different way, one that honors your inner timing rather than external expectations. My heir, you are beginning to see that not everything requires immediate resolution. Some things are meant to unfold gradually, revealing their meaning over time. This can feel unfamiliar, especially if you are used to seeking quick answers. Yet there is a quiet strength in allowing things to develop naturally. It shows a level of trust that does not rely on certainty, but on presence. You may notice that your reactions are changing. Situations that once caused you to feel overwhelmed may now feel more manageable. Thoughts that once repeated themselves may begin to lose their intensity. This does not mean that challenges will disappear, but it does suggest that your relationship with them is evolving. And when your relationship with something changes, its impact on you often changes as well. My child, there may have been times when you doubted your ability to navigate what lies ahead. You may have felt unprepared or unsure, wondering if you were ready for what is to come. These feelings are not uncommon, especially when you are stepping into something new. Yet readiness does not always mean having everything figured out. Sometimes it simply means being willing to continue, even without full certainty. There is a quiet alignment beginning to form within you, one that connects your thoughts, your feelings, and your awareness in a more balanced way. You may not yet see the full shape of it, but you can feel its presence. It is in the way you pause before reacting, the way you consider what truly matters to you, and the way you begin to trust your own perception more deeply. My beloved, you are not being asked to become someone entirely different. You are being invited to return to what has always been true within you, beneath the layers of doubt and hesitation. This return does not happen all at once. It happens in moments like this, where you choose to stay present, to listen, and to notice what is already unfolding. You may have felt at times that you were moving in circles, repeating patterns that did not seem to lead anywhere new. But what may have seemed like repetition was often part of a deeper process of learning. Each experience added something, even if it was not immediately clear. And now, as you begin to see things differently, those past moments may start to make more sense. My chosen, direction is not always about knowing exactly where you are going. It is often about recognizing what feels aligned in the present moment. You may not have a complete map, but you can sense the next step, and that is enough. Each step you take with awareness creates the path ahead, even if you cannot yet see where it leads. There is also a quiet release happening within you. Old expectations, old fears, and old assumptions may begin to loosen their hold. You may find yourself less attached to outcomes and more focused on the experience itself. This shift can feel subtle, but it carries a significant impact. When you release the need to control every detail, you create space for new possibilities to emerge. My heir, you are learning to trust not just what you see, but what you feel in a deeper sense. This kind of trust does not come from external validation, but from your own lived experience. Each time you listen to your inner awareness and find that it guides you well, your trust in it grows. And over time, this trust becomes a steady foundation. You may still have moments of doubt, and that is perfectly natural. Growth does not eliminate uncertainty. It changes how you respond to it. Instead of being overwhelmed by doubt, you may begin to observe it, to question it, and to see it as just one part of your experience rather than the whole. This shift allows you to move forward without needing to eliminate every uncertainty first. My child, as you continue on this path, you may begin to feel a sense of direction that is quieter but more stable than anything you have experienced before. It does not push you or rush you. It simply remains, offering guidance when you are ready to receive it. And the more you trust it, the more clearly it may reveal itself. There is no need to compare your progress to any standard or timeline. Your journey is unfolding in its own way, at its own pace. What matters is not how quickly you move, but how present you are as you move. Presence allows you to notice what is important, to adjust when needed, and to appreciate each step along the way. My beloved, you are not alone in this process, even if it sometimes feels that way. There is a quiet support that surrounds you, not in a visible form, but in the way things begin to align when you trust yourself. You may notice small moments of ease, unexpected clarity, or a sense of reassurance that seems to come from within. These are not coincidences. They are part of the unfolding. As you move forward, remember that you do not need to have everything figured out. You only need to remain open, aware, and willing to take the next step when it becomes clear. That is how direction becomes movement, and how movement becomes growth. And even now, you are already in motion, whether you realize it or not. My beloved, there is a quiet moment that often arrives after clarity begins to form, a moment where you realize that seeing is only the beginning. You may now understand certain things more deeply than before, yet there can still be a space between understanding and fully stepping forward. This space is not a failure or a delay. It is where strength begins to take shape, not through force, but through gentle consistency. You may feel it as a subtle readiness, not loud or overwhelming, but steady and present. You may have noticed that even with new awareness, parts of you still hesitate. There may be thoughts that question whether you are truly ready, or whether you might fall back into old patterns. These thoughts are not here to stop you, but to show you where your attention is still needed. Strength does not come from never doubting. It grows from learning how to move forward even when doubt quietly exists beside you. My child, strength is often misunderstood. It is not always bold or visible, and it does not always feel like confidence. Sometimes, strength is simply choosing to stay present when it would be easier to withdraw. It is allowing yourself to remain open, even after moments when you felt uncertain. You may not always recognize these choices as strength, but they are shaping you in ways that are deeper than you realize. There is a part of you that is beginning to trust itself more, even if that trust feels fragile. You may catch yourself pausing before reacting, reflecting before deciding, and listening more carefully to your inner sense of what feels right. These are quiet signs of strength. They do not demand attention, but they build a foundation that becomes more stable over time. My chosen, you are no longer where you once were, even if your surroundings look similar. The way you perceive things is changing, and with that change comes a new kind of power. It is not about controlling everything around you, but about understanding how you respond to it. When you begin to see your responses as choices rather than reactions, you step into a deeper level of awareness. There may be moments when you feel pulled in different directions, as if part of you wants to move forward while another part wants to remain where it feels familiar. This is a natural part of growth. The familiar often feels safe, even when it no longer serves you. But as you become more aware, you may begin to notice that what once felt comfortable now feels limiting. That awareness is not meant to create discomfort, but to guide you towards something more aligned. My heir, strength is also found in patience. Not the kind of patience that waits passively, but the kind that trusts the process without needing immediate results. You may have been conditioned to expect quick outcomes or clear signs, but real growth often unfolds gradually. It is in the repeated choice to remain present, to continue listening, and to keep moving forward in small ways. You may begin to see that you do not need to have everything resolved before taking a step. In fact, many steps are meant to be taken before full clarity arrives. This can feel unfamiliar at first, especially if you are used to waiting until everything feels certain. But certainty is not always required. Sometimes, all that is needed is a quiet sense that you are moving in a direction that feels true to you. My child, there is also a release happening within you, even if it is not always obvious. Old fears, old expectations, and old definitions of who you thought you needed to be are beginning to loosen. You may not have consciously decided to let them go, but they are shifting as your awareness changes. This release creates space, and within that space, something new can begin to grow. You may have moments where you look back and realize that situations that once affected you deeply no longer carry the same weight. This is not because those experiences were insignificant, but because you have changed in how you relate to them. Strength often shows itself in these quiet shifts, where what once felt overwhelming now feels manageable. My beloved, you are learning to stand within yourself in a new way, not by pushing away what you feel, but by allowing yourself to experience it without being controlled by it. This is a deeper form of strength, one that does not resist or suppress, but understands and integrates. You may still feel emotions fully, but they no longer define your direction. There is also a growing awareness of what truly matters to you. You may find that certain things that once seemed important are no longer as significant, while other things begin to stand out more clearly. This shift is part of your alignment. It is not about losing interest, but about refining your focus. My chosen, you may begin to notice that your energy is changing, not in a dramatic way, but in how you approach situations, how you respond to challenges, and how you carry yourself internally. You may feel a quiet steadiness, even in moments that once felt uncertain. This steadiness is a reflection of the strength you are building. There may still be moments when you question yourself, and that is completely natural. Strength does not remove all uncertainty. Instead, it allows you to move through uncertainty without being stopped by it. You may find that even when you are unsure, you are still able to take a step, to make a choice, or to remain present. My heir, you are also learning that strength does not require you to do everything alone. It is not about isolating yourself or proving your independence. It is about recognizing when to pause, when to reflect, and when to allow yourself to receive support, even if that support comes in subtle forms. You may begin to feel a deeper connection to yourself, one that is not based on external validation or approval. This connection allows you to trust your own experience, even when it differs from what others may expect. It gives you a sense of grounding that does not depend on circumstances. My child, there is a quiet confidence forming within you, even if you would not yet call it that. It is not loud or forceful, but it is steady. It shows itself in your willingness to continue, in your ability to reflect, and in your openness to growth. This confidence does not need to be proven. It simply exists, growing stronger with each moment you choose to stay present. As you continue forward, you may begin to see that strength is not something you need to search for. It is something that has been developing within you all along, shaped by your experiences, your reflections, and your willingness to keep going. Even in moments when you felt uncertain, that strength was still there, quietly supporting you. My beloved, you are not expected to become perfect or to have everything figured out. You are simply being invited to continue, to trust what is unfolding, and to recognize the strength that is already within you. It may not always feel obvious, but it is real, and it is growing. Take a moment now to notice how you feel, not in comparison to before, but in this present moment. There may be a subtle difference, a quiet shift, or simply a sense of awareness that was not there before. That is enough. That is how strength begins to reveal itself, not all at once, but step by step, moment by moment. My child, there comes a moment when strength no longer feels like something you are building, but something you are beginning to trust. You may not have noticed exactly when this shift happened, because it did not arrive with noise or announcement. It came quietly, through the small choices you made to remain present, to reflect instead of react, and to continue even when you were unsure. And now, something within you is starting to recognize that you are more grounded than you once believed. You may still encounter moments where uncertainty appears, but it no longer carries the same weight. Instead of pulling you away, it may simply pass through your awareness, like a thought that you observe rather than follow. This is not because life has become simpler, but because your relationship with it is changing. You are no longer moving from confusion alone, but from a place that is beginning to understand itself more clearly. My beloved, this is where alignment begins to take form, not as something you force into place, but as something that naturally unfolds when your inner world becomes more settled. You may start to notice that certain decisions feel easier, not because they are simple, but because they resonate more clearly with what you already know within yourself. There is less internal conflict, less hesitation, and more quiet recognition. You may find yourself stepping away from things that once felt necessary, not out of rejection, but out of understanding. It is possible that what once served you is no longer aligned with who you are becoming. And while this can feel unfamiliar, it is also a sign of growth. Letting go is not always about loss. Sometimes, It is about making space for what truly belongs. My chosen. Alignment does not mean everything will immediately fall into place. It means that you are beginning to move in a way that feels consistent with your deeper awareness. There may still be challenges, and there may still be moments of questioning. But underneath it all, there is a sense that you are no longer moving against yourself. You may notice that your energy feels different in certain situations. Conversations that once felt draining may now feel easier to step away from. Environments that once felt overwhelming may now feel more manageable, or you may choose not to engage with them in the same way. This is not about avoidance. It is about discernment, about recognizing what supports your well-being and what does not. My heir. There is also a subtle shift in how you relate to time. You may feel less urgency to rush, less pressure to have everything figured out immediately. Instead, there is a growing sense that things can unfold at a natural pace. This does not mean you are becoming passive. It means you are learning to move with intention rather than reaction. You may begin to trust that not everything needs to be controlled. Some things can be allowed to develop on their own, without constant effort. This trust does not come from certainty, but from experience. Each time you have allowed something to unfold without forcing it, you have seen that it often finds its own way, and this understanding begins to shape how you approach new situations. My child, alignment also brings a deeper awareness of your own boundaries. You may find it easier to recognize when something does not feel right, even if you cannot fully explain why. You may begin to honor that feeling, rather than dismissing it. This is not about creating distance from everything, but about creating space for what truly aligns with you. There may be moments where you feel a quiet pull toward something new, something you have not fully explored before. It may not be clear what it is yet, and that is perfectly fine. You do not need to define it immediately. Simply noticing that pull is enough. It is often the beginning of a new direction, one that reveals itself gradually. My beloved, you are also learning that alignment is not a fixed state. It is something that you return to, again and again, through awareness and presence. There may be times when you feel fully aligned, and other times when you feel slightly off. This is natural. What matters is that you now recognize the difference, and you know how to return to that sense of balance. You may have spent time in the past trying to fit into expectations that did not fully reflect who you are. Now, you may begin to release that effort, not because you no longer care, but because you understand that true alignment cannot be forced. It comes from being honest with yourself, even in small ways. My chosen, there is also a growing sense of direction, even if it is not fully defined. You may not have a clear destination, but you can feel that you are moving forward in a way that is meaningful. This sense of direction does not rely on external validation. It comes from within, from your own awareness of what feels right for you. You may notice that your decisions are becoming more intentional. Instead of reacting to every situation, you are choosing how to engage with it. This choice may feel subtle, but it is powerful. It reflects a level of awareness that allows you to shape your experience, rather than being shaped by it. My heir, alignment, also brings a sense of calm that is not dependent on everything going perfectly. You may still encounter challenges, but they do not disrupt you in the same way. There is a steadiness that remains, even when circumstances change. This steadiness is not something you need to create. It is something that emerges as you continue to trust yourself. There may be moments where you look back and realize how much has changed, even if the changes were gradual. You may see that you are responding differently, thinking differently, and feeling differently. These shifts are not random. They are the result of your willingness to stay present and to continue growing. My child, as you move further into this alignment, you may begin to feel a sense of readiness, not a readiness that demands action, but one that allows for it. When the next step becomes clear, you will be able to take it without the same level of hesitation. This is not because you will have all the answers, but because you trust yourself to navigate what comes next. You are not required to rush into anything. You are simply being invited to remain aware, to notice what feels aligned, and to move when it feels right. This is how alignment becomes action, not through force, but through natural progression. Take a moment now to notice where you are, not in comparison to where you were, but in this present moment. You may feel a quiet sense of balance, or simply a deeper awareness of yourself. That is enough. That is how alignment begins to take root, quietly, steadily, and in its own time. My beloved, there is a moment that comes after alignment begins to settle within you, a moment where you realize that knowing and being aligned is not the end, but the beginning of movement. You may feel it now as a quiet readiness, not urgent or overwhelming, but present. It does not push you forward, yet it gently invites you to take a step, and you may find yourself wondering, even now, what that step might be. You may have once believed that action requires certainty, that you must feel completely sure before you begin. But you are beginning to see that this is not always the case. Action often begins in the presence of partial clarity, guided by a sense of alignment rather than complete understanding. You may not see the entire path ahead, but you can sense where the next step lies, and that is enough to begin. My child, there is a difference between rushing and moving. Rushing comes from pressure, from the feeling that you must act quickly to avoid missing something. Movement, however, comes from alignment. It is steady, intentional, and rooted in awareness. You may begin to notice that when you act from alignment, your steps feel more natural, even if they are unfamiliar. There may still be hesitation, a quiet voice that questions whether this is the right time or the right direction. This hesitation is not something you need to eliminate. It is something you can acknowledge without allowing it to decide for you. You may feel both readiness and uncertainty at the same time, and that is perfectly natural. Growth often exists in that space between the two. My chosen, action does not always appear as something dramatic or visible. Sometimes, it is as simple as choosing to respond differently than you did before. It may be a small decision, a subtle shift in how you approach something, or a quiet commitment to yourself. These small actions may not seem significant in the moment, but they create momentum over time. You may begin to notice that when you take even a small step, something within you responds. There may be a sense of clarity that follows, or a feeling of ease that was not there before. This is not because everything has suddenly become clear, but because movement often reveals what stillness cannot. Each step you take brings new awareness. My heir, there is also a deeper level of trust that begins to form when you allow yourself to move. It is not the kind of trust that guarantees outcomes, but the kind that reassures you that you can handle what unfolds. You may not know exactly what will happen next, but you are beginning to trust that you will meet it with awareness and presence. You may have spent time waiting for the perfect moment, for a sign that everything is aligned before you act. But you are beginning to understand that alignment does not mean perfection. It means resonance. It means that something within you recognizes the direction, even if your mind still has questions. My child, there is also a release happening as you begin to move. The weight of overthinking, the pressure to get everything right, and the fear of making mistakes may start to lessen. This does not mean they disappear completely, but they no longer hold the same influence over your choices. You are learning to move with them, rather than being stopped by them. You may find that your actions are becoming more intentional. Instead of reacting automatically, you are choosing how to engage. This choice may feel subtle, but it changes the way you experience your path. It allows you to act with awareness rather than impulse. My beloved, you are also discovering that action can be gentle. It does not always require effort or force. Sometimes, it is about allowing yourself to follow what feels aligned even if it is unfamiliar. You may feel a quiet confidence as you take these steps, not because you are certain of the outcome, but because you trust the direction. There may still be moments where you pause, where you question whether you should continue or wait. These pauses are not setbacks. They are part of your process. They allow you to reflect, to reconnect with your alignment, and to move forward with greater awareness. My chosen, you may also notice that as you begin to move, new opportunities or insights start to appear. This is not because they were not there before, but because your awareness has shifted. Movement changes what you see. It opens up possibilities that were not visible when you were still. You are not required to take large steps. In fact, small, consistent actions often create the most lasting change. You may find that each small step builds upon the previous one, creating a sense of progress that feels steady and sustainable. My heir. There is also a growing sense of ownership in your journey. You are beginning to recognize that you are not simply reacting to what happens around you. You are participating in the unfolding of your path. This participation does not mean control, but engagement. You may still feel moments of doubt, and that is completely natural. Doubt does not disappear when you begin to act. It simply becomes one voice among many, rather than the one that decides everything. You can acknowledge it without allowing it to stop you. My child, there is something powerful about choosing to move, even in a small way. It signals to yourself that you are ready to engage with what is unfolding. It creates a sense of momentum that carries you forward. Even when you are unsure of the destination, you may begin to notice that action brings a different kind of clarity than reflection alone. While reflection helps you understand, action helps you experience. And through experience, your understanding deepens in ways that cannot be achieved through thought alone. My beloved, you are not expected to have everything figured out before you begin. You are simply being invited to take the next step that feels aligned. That step may be small, but it is meaningful. It is part of how your path unfolds. Take a moment now to notice if there is something within you that feels ready to move, even slightly. You may not need to define it or act on it immediately. Simply acknowledging that readiness is enough for now. It is the beginning of action, and it will continue to reveal itself as you move forward. My child, as you begin to move, even in small and quiet ways, there is something that starts to unfold beyond your immediate awareness. You may not see it clearly at first, but you can feel it in the way your steps begin to connect, in the way one moment leads naturally into the next. What once felt uncertain may now feel guided, not by something outside of you, but by a deeper alignment that is becoming more familiar. This is where your movement begins to turn into direction. You may have noticed that when you take a step that feels true, something within you settles. It may not bring all the answers, but it brings a sense of coherence, as if your thoughts, feelings, and actions are no longer pulling in different directions. This coherence is not something you force. It emerges when you begin to trust what you already sense within yourself. And the more you notice it, the more it strengthens. My beloved, there is a quiet unfolding happening in your path now, one that does not require you to rush or to prove anything. It reveals itself through experience, through the way things begin to align as you continue forward. You may begin to see that what once felt like confusion was simply a lack of connection between where you were and where you are now. As that connection forms, your direction becomes clearer, not all at once, but step by step. There may still be moments where you question your path, where you wonder if you are moving in the right direction. These moments are not signs that you are lost. They are part of how you refine your awareness. Each time you pause to reflect, you deepen your understanding of what feels aligned and what does not. This reflection does not slow you down. It strengthens your direction. My chosen, you are beginning to recognize patterns, not in a way that overwhelms you, but in a way that brings clarity. You may notice how certain choices lead to a sense of ease, while others create tension. You may see how your energy shifts depending on what you engage with. These observations are not random. They are guiding you, helping you understand what supports your growth and what pulls you away from it. There is no need to judge what you observe. Not every experience needs to be labeled as right or wrong. Some are simply part of your learning, part of how you come to understand yourself more deeply. What matters is that you are paying attention, that you are willing to notice and to learn from what you experience. My heir, direction also brings a sense of continuity. You may begin to feel that your steps are no longer isolated but connected. What you do today may influence what becomes clear tomorrow. This connection creates a sense of flow, even if it is subtle. It allows you to move forward without needing to constantly question each step. You may find that your decisions are becoming more intuitive, not in a way that bypasses thought, but in a way that integrates it with your deeper awareness. You may feel a quiet certainty about certain choices, even if you cannot fully explain why. This certainty is not about having all the answers. It is about recognizing what resonates with you at a deeper level. My child, there is also a growing trust in your own process. You may begin to see that you do not need to follow a predetermined path or meet external expectations. Your path is unfolding in a way that is unique to you, shaped by your experiences and your awareness. This realization can bring a sense of freedom, even if it also feels unfamiliar. You may have moments where you look ahead and feel unsure of what lies beyond your current step. This is natural. Direction does not always reveal the entire journey. It reveals enough for you to continue, and as you continue, more becomes visible. This is how your path unfolds, gradually, in alignment with your awareness. My beloved, there is also a subtle shift in how you relate to outcomes. You may find that you are less focused on reaching a specific result and more engaged in the process itself. This does not mean that outcomes no longer matter, but that they are no longer the sole focus. When you engage fully with the process, outcomes often align naturally. You may notice that when you are present with what you are doing, you experience it differently. There is less tension, less urgency, and more clarity. This presence allows you to respond more effectively to what arises, rather than reacting automatically. It creates space for thoughtful action. My chosen, direction is not about perfection. It is about alignment. There may still be moments where you take a step that does not feel fully aligned. This does not mean you have failed. It means you are learning. Each step, whether it feels right or not, contributes to your understanding. You may begin to trust that even your missteps have value. They show you what does not resonate, helping you refine your direction. When you view them this way, they no longer feel like setbacks. They become part of your growth. My heir, there is also a quiet confidence forming as you continue to move. It is not based on external validation, but on your own experience. Each time you take a step and see how it unfolds, your trust in yourself deepens. This trust becomes a steady presence, supporting you as you move forward. You may still have moments where you seek reassurance, where you wonder if you are on the right path. These moments are natural, but you may also begin to notice that the reassurance you seek is increasingly found within you, rather than outside of you. This shift is significant. It reflects a deeper connection with yourself. My child, as your direction becomes clearer, you may feel a sense of purpose, even if it is not fully defined. This purpose is not something you need to declare or fully understand. It is something you experience through your actions, through the way you engage with your path. You may find that your actions begin to feel more meaningful, not because they are larger or more visible, but because they are aligned with your awareness. This alignment gives them depth, making even small steps feel significant. My beloved, take a moment now to notice how your movement has begun to shape your direction. You may not see the entire path, but you can feel that you are no longer standing still. There is a flow, a quiet progression that is guiding you forward. You do not need to rush ahead or force clarity. Simply continue to move with awareness, to notice what feels aligned, and to trust that each step is contributing to something greater. Even now, as you continue, your path is unfolding in ways you may not yet fully see, but are already beginning to feel. My beloved, as your direction becomes steadier, there comes a quiet moment where you begin to recognize something new within yourself. Not just movement, not just clarity, but a growing confidence that does not depend on certainty. It may feel subtle at first, almost easy to overlook, yet it carries a depth that you have not experienced in the same way before. You may notice it in how you respond, in how you choose, and in how you remain present even when things are not fully defined. You may still encounter moments where your mind seeks reassurance, where it looks for confirmation that you are on the right path. This is natural. And it does not mean that your confidence is lacking. It simply reflects a part of you that is still learning to trust what cannot always be proven immediately. But alongside that, there is another part of you that is becoming quieter and more certain, even without external validation. My child, confidence is not the absence of questions. It is the ability to continue even when questions remain. You may have once believed that you needed to eliminate all doubt before moving forward, but now you are beginning to see that confidence grows through experience. Each step you take, each moment you remain present, strengthens your trust in yourself. There is a shift happening in how you see your own journey. You may no longer feel the same urgency to compare yourself to others or to measure your progress against an external standard. Instead, you are beginning to recognize your own rhythm, your own pace, and your own process. This recognition brings a quiet sense of stability. My chosen, you are also becoming more aware of your inner voice, not the one shaped by fear or expectation, but the one that reflects your deeper awareness. It does not speak loudly, yet it carries a clarity that you are learning to recognize. You may find that when you listen to it, your decisions feel more aligned, even if they are not always easy. There may be moments where you hesitate, where you pause before taking the next step. These pauses are not signs of weakness. They are part of your awareness, allowing you to reconnect with what feels true. Confidence does not rush. It allows space for reflection, for consideration, and for alignment. My heir, you are also beginning to trust your ability to adapt. You may not know exactly what lies ahead, but you are starting to understand that you can meet each moment as it comes. This understanding creates a different kind of confidence, one that is not tied to outcomes, but to your capacity to respond. You may notice that situations that once felt overwhelming now feel more manageable, not because they have changed, but because you have. Your perspective has shifted, allowing you to see things with greater clarity and less emotional intensity. This shift creates space for a thoughtful response. My child, confidence also brings a sense of ease in your decisions. You may find that you are no longer overanalyzing every possibility or second-guessing every choice. Instead, you are allowing yourself to choose based on what feels aligned, trusting that you can adjust if needed. There may still be moments when you look back and question past decisions. This is natural, but you may also begin to see those moments differently, not as mistakes, but as steps that brought you to where you are now. This perspective allows you to release unnecessary regret. My beloved, there is a quiet empowerment in recognizing that you are not defined by a single moment or decision. Your journey is made up of many steps, each contributing to your growth. Confidence grows when you allow yourself to see the larger picture, rather than focusing only on individual outcomes. You may begin to notice that your energy feels more stable. You are less reactive to external influences and more grounded in your own awareness. This stability does not mean that you are unaffected by what happens around you, but that you can remain centered within it. My chosen, there is also a growing clarity in what you value. You may find that your priorities are shifting, that certain things no longer hold the same importance, while others become more significant. This clarity helps guide your decisions, making them feel more intentional. You are learning that confidence does not require you to have all the answers. It requires you to trust that you can navigate what you do not yet know. This trust is built through your experiences, through each moment you choose to stay present and engaged. My heir, there is a quiet assurance forming within you, one that does not need to be expressed outwardly. It is felt internally, in the way you carry yourself and in the way you approach your path. It is steady, even when circumstances change. You may still encounter moments of uncertainty, and that is perfectly natural. Confidence does not remove uncertainty. It changes how you relate to it. Instead of being overwhelmed, you can observe it, understand it, and to move forward alongside it. My child, take a moment now to notice how you feel within yourself. There may be a sense of steadiness, a quiet confidence that was not as present before. Even if it is subtle, it is real. It is part of your growth. As you continue, allow this confidence to guide you, not by forcing your path, but by supporting your presence within it. You do not need to prove anything or rush ahead. Simply continue as you are, aware, open, and willing to move forward. That is enough, and it is already leading you exactly where you need to go. My beloved, there comes a gentle moment in your journey where everything you have been sensing begins to gather into something more complete. Not in a way that feels final or overwhelming, but in a way that feels quietly whole. You may notice that the awareness you have been cultivating, the strength you have been building, the alignment you have been learning to trust, and the movement you have allowed yourself to take are no longer separate experiences. They are beginning to flow together within you, creating a sense of inner coherence that feels natural, almost as if it has always been there waiting to be recognized. You may not be able to identify the exact moment this began to happen. It likely did not arrive as a sudden realization or a dramatic shift. Instead, it formed gradually, through the many small moments where you chose to stay present, to reflect rather than react, and to remain open even when things were unclear. And now, as you look at yourself in this moment, you may feel that something has settled. There is less inner resistance, less conflict between different parts of you, and more quiet agreement within your own awareness. My child, this is where a deeper kind of power begins to reveal itself, not the kind that seeks control over everything around you, but the kind that comes from within, from alignment and integration. When your inner world is no longer divided, your actions carry a different energy. They are not rushed, not driven by fear or pressure, but guided by a sense of clarity that feels steady and grounded. Even your smallest choices begin to reflect this shift. You may begin to notice that you are no longer searching in the same way you once did. There was a time when you may have looked outward constantly, seeking answers, reassurance, or direction from sources outside yourself. And while learning from others can still be valuable, you are now beginning to recognize that much of what you need is already forming within you. There is a quiet knowing that does not demand attention, but gently supports you when you pause long enough to notice it. My chosen, there is also a quiet stability beginning to take root within you. It is not dependent on circumstances being perfect or everything going according to plan. It remains even when things shift around you, even when uncertainty appears. This stability allows you to remain centered, to observe rather than react, and to respond with intention rather than impulse. It is a steady presence that supports you without needing to be proven. You may still encounter moments that challenge you, moments where old thoughts or familiar patterns try to resurface, but you are meeting them differently now. Instead of being pulled into them without awareness, you are able to see them as they arise. You may pause, reflect, and choose how you want to engage, rather than simply reacting out of habit. This ability to choose is a reflection of your growth, and it is one of the quiet ways your power is expressed. My heir, there is also a deeper acceptance forming within you, one that allows you to meet each moment without resistance. This does not mean you agree with everything, or that you stop caring about what happens. It means you are no longer fighting against reality as it is. You are allowing yourself to understand it, to move with it, and to respond from a place of awareness rather than frustration. This acceptance creates space within you, space where clarity and peace can exist together. You may notice that your energy feels more balanced than before. There is less pulling between extremes, less shifting between overthinking and avoidance. Instead, there is a steadiness that allows you to remain present even when things are uncertain. This balance is not something you forced into place. It developed gradually through your willingness to observe, to reflect, and to stay engaged with your experience. My child, there is a quiet realization beginning to take shape within you, one that may feel both simple and profound. You are not the same as you once were. Even if your external life looks similar, your inner experience has changed. The way you perceive situations, the way you respond to challenges, and the way you understand yourself have all shifted. This change may feel subtle, but it is deeply meaningful. You may begin to trust this change more fully. Instead of questioning it at every step, you may allow it to unfold naturally. This trust is not blind or forced. It is built from your own experience, from the many moments where you have seen yourself grow, even when you did not expect it. Each of those moments has contributed to the foundation you now stand on. My beloved, there is also a sense of readiness emerging within you, not one that pressures you to act immediately, but one that supports you when the time comes. You may feel that you are prepared to step into what is next, even if you do not yet know exactly what that will look like. This readiness is not about having complete clarity. It is about trusting your ability to meet what unfolds with presence and awareness. You may notice that your decisions are becoming more aligned with who you are becoming. They are no longer driven solely by habit, expectation, or external influence. Instead, they reflect your inner understanding, your awareness of what feels true for you. This alignment creates a sense of integrity, where your actions and your awareness move together. My chosen, your perspective is also expanding. You may find that you can see beyond immediate concerns to understand situations within a broader context. This does not mean you ignore what is happening in the present. It means you are able to hold it within a larger understanding, allowing you to respond with greater patience and clarity. You are beginning to see that your journey is not a straight path, not something that follows a fixed or predictable direction. It is dynamic, evolving, and responsive to your awareness. This understanding allows you to move with flexibility, to adapt when needed, and to trust that even unexpected moments are part of your growth. My heir, there is a quiet confidence in knowing that no matter what arises, you can return to yourself. Even if you feel unsettled for a moment, you know how to come back to your center. You know how to pause, to breathe, and to reconnect with your awareness. This ability is not something you were given. It is something you have developed, step by step. You may still experience uncertainty at times, and that is natural. But uncertainty no longer defines your path. It is something you can hold alongside your clarity, your strength, and your alignment. It becomes part of your experience, not something that controls it. My child, take a moment now to notice what has formed within you. You may feel a sense of wholeness, even if it is quiet and subtle. You may notice that things feel more connected, more steady, and more aligned than before. This is not something you need to hold on to tightly. It is something you can simply allow to be. As you continue forward, let this integration support you. You do not need to rush or force what comes next. Simply remain present, aware, and open to what unfolds. You are already moving in a way that reflects your growth, and that movement will continue to guide you, gently and steadily, into what is next. My beloved, there is a quiet moment that follows integration, a moment where everything within you begins to settle into a new kind of stillness. It is not the stillness of waiting or uncertainty, but the stillness of knowing. Even if that knowing cannot yet be fully explained, you may feel it now as a gentle calm, a sense that something within you has aligned in a way that no longer needs to be questioned. This is not the end of your journey, but it is the beginning of a new way of walking through it. You may notice that the urgency you once felt has softened. There is less pressure to figure everything out, less need to rush toward an outcome. Instead, there is a quiet trust that what needs to unfold will do so in its own time. This trust does not come from external assurance. It comes from your own experience, from everything you have moved through to reach this moment. My child, you are no longer standing in the same place you once were. Even if your surroundings appear familiar, your awareness has changed, and that changes everything. You are seeing with new clarity, feeling with deeper understanding, and responding with greater intention. These shifts may not always be visible to others, but they are real, and they are meaningful. There is a gentle confidence in the way you now carry yourself internally. It does not need to be spoken or proven. It simply exists, steady and present. You may still have questions, and there may still be moments of uncertainty, but they no longer hold the same weight. They pass through your awareness without disrupting your sense of center. My heir, this is where renewal begins, not as something separate from what you have experienced, but as a continuation of it. Everything you have moved through has led you here, to this moment of quiet alignment and readiness. You are not starting over. You are moving forward with a deeper understanding of yourself. You may begin to notice that your energy feels lighter, not because challenges have disappeared, but because you are no longer carrying them in the same way. There is less resistance, less attachment to outcomes, and more openness to what unfolds. This openness creates space for new experiences to enter your life. My beloved, there is also a sense of clarity about what you will no longer return to, not from a place of rejection or judgment, but from understanding. You recognize what no longer aligns with you, and you allow yourself to step away from it without needing to explain or justify. This is a quiet form of self-respect. You may feel a gentle pull toward new possibilities, even if they are not fully defined. This pull is not something you need to chase. It is something you can allow, something you can explore with curiosity rather than pressure. It is part of how your path continues to unfold. My chosen, you are also learning that renewal is not a single moment, but an ongoing process. It happens each time you return to your awareness, each time you choose to remain present, and each time you align your actions with what feels true. It is a continuous unfolding, one that evolves as you do. There may still be moments where you feel uncertain, or where old thoughts briefly return. This is natural. Renewal does not erase everything that came before. It changes how you relate to it. You may now be able to see those moments with more clarity, without becoming fully absorbed in them. My child, there is a quiet strength in knowing that you can begin again at any moment, not because you have failed, but because growth is ongoing. You are not confined to a single path or a single version of yourself. You are constantly evolving, and each moment offers a new opportunity to align with that evolution. You may begin to trust this process more deeply. Instead of trying to control every detail, you allow things to unfold while remaining engaged and aware. This balance between presence and openness creates a sense of flow, where movement feels natural rather than forced. My heir, there is also a deeper connection forming between who you are and how you live. Your actions are becoming a reflection of your awareness, rather than a reaction to external pressures. This alignment brings a sense of authenticity, where you feel more like yourself in each moment. You may notice that your perspective on challenges has shifted. Instead of seeing them as obstacles, you may begin to see them as part of your growth, as opportunities to deepen your understanding. This does not make them easy, but it changes how you experience them, my beloved. As you stand in this moment, there is nothing you need to prove and nothing you need to force. You are already in motion, already evolving, already becoming. The path ahead does not require perfection. It simply invites your presence. Take a moment now to breathe gently and notice what you feel. There may be a sense of calm, a quiet awareness that was not as clear before. Even if it is subtle, it is enough. It is part of your renewal, part of your continued unfolding. If this resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on what stood out most. You may not need to define it fully. Simply noticing it is enough. And if you feel gently guided, you may continue exploring this path, allowing each moment to reveal itself in its own time.